just.
No, I wanted our fans to see what we talk about when we just bullshit. We talking about the new Nas album, which is more interesting than both the Carolina Panthers and the Charlotte Hornets. Yeah, I don't even listen to hip hop like that, and I wasn't like that excited about a new Nas album, even though Nas is like my greatest favorite rapper of all time. But it's a good project. It's really good because Nas never feels like he needs to like make this big evolutionary jump to keep up with the times. He gonna be Nas. He gonna rap like Nas, and as long as he gets a producer that can fill it.
You know how certain brand names have brand names that are going to last forever, and they don't need to change any formula. That's Nas. Nas is a brand name at this point. He don't need to change. He doesn't need to adjust with the times to fit in.
Yeah, tracks with 21 Savage, a Lil Yachty, or you know what I'm saying. He's just gonna be Nas, and he's gonna spit, and it's gonna be and big up for him for working with Hit Boy. If it took 3 albums, I think, for them to like really get it. Yeah, but I felt like Hit Boy was like, okay, I see what I need to do for Nas, and he knocked it out the park. Some real dope tracks, a few sneak disses in there.
Yeah. Hey, go on Pete Rock's Instagram and everybody's showing.
I was just about to do a YouTube video about that beef. I have a hip hop channel which it's like defunct. I don't have enough time to do another YouTube channel. I already got like 8. But this one I was like, I'm gonna have to bring this channel back, talk about this Pete Rock Nas beef.
I'm gonna have to watch that, bro.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand. I'm kind of on Pete Rock's side with this though. Kind of. I mean, money is money, right?
I just have one question. Why did it take you 27 years to bring it up, bro? That's all I want to know.
I talk about that in my YouTube video, and there's a reason why.
Okay.
It has to do with who controls the Masters. You got to pick your battles you can win, right? Nas for the longest time did not control the Masters to The World Is Yours, which is the track in question.
Right.
Other people did. Pete Rock cannot go after Columbia Records and MC Search. MC Search actually owned the Masters to that, and he just couldn't go after them. Nas eventually bought back the Masters to some of his songs, that being one of them. Now he's like, all right, Nas, now you got control of your stuff. Pay me what
money.
Pay me what money. Right, exactly.
I guess we could talk about these two teams now.
Yeah, I guess. People who should not be getting paid what they owe are owed. Members of both Charlotte professional sports franchises. Some people show up, earn a paycheck. Some people don't. I'm gonna give the Carolina Panthers a little bit of props. Thursday night football, prime time, dope new helmets.
No doubt.
I've always loved the Panthers all black uniforms. I've always felt like they should rock that more. And when I saw they were going to a black helmet last season, I was like, okay, I can't wait to see this. And boy, did they look good when they took the field on a rainy Thursday night and almost ran the Falcons out of the building.
The score should have been there should have been a little more distance between the score than what it was.
There's a reason why we'll get into that in a minute. But for those of y'all who did or didn't see the game, Carolina Panthers ended up beating the Atlanta Falcons in a bit of a revenge game on Thursday Night Football on Amazon, 25-15, in a game that, like Jamal said, should have been not as close as it ended up being, because Atlanta did have a little bit of a chance at the end to make it a ball game, and the Carolina defense really showed up.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on that game in general?
Our friend Danny Thompson, who guys, I actually may give him a call during the show just to kind of throw it out there, man. But our friend Danny Thompson, I thought that he was being a little hard on Marcus Mariota, and after watching Thursday, I'm pretty sure I know why he's so hard on Marcus Mariota, and it just makes me wonder. It makes me wonder. Why couldn't this defense make Mariota look like this in the first game? I know. And that's just kind of a mystery to me, especially coming off of a short week. you know what I mean? You only get 3 or 4 days to prepare for this game. I think the defense was an A, man. I mean, they stifled Mariota. They made him look silly. We contained Patterson. I think we played well for all 4 quarters, man. You know what I mean? Except for a couple of drives where defense didn't have enough time to really rest. I thought the defense was lights out. I think the defense, along with Deontay Foreman in the running game, gave P.J. Walker every opportunity to win the game, and P.J. Walker almost gave every opportunity to lose the damn game. So
we'll talk about that. Yeah, we'll talk about that in greater detail in a minute.
Yeah. So overall, man, decent Thursday night win, man.
Yeah, I feel like I think the defense had a better time or played better this game because the offense did more to set the tone.
Yeah,
they were up 10-0 early, and when you make any offense in the NFL one-dimensional, then it allows your defense to kind of breathe easy. Carolina had a simple game plan, which was we're gonna stack the box and we're gonna make Marcus Mariota beat us. It's as simple as that.
Yep.
It worked. Atlanta was not willing to take the chances with Mariota, and when they did, they were punished for it. Except for the times that our DBs dropped the easiest interceptions. What are y'all doing out there? But
looking at you, Xavier Woods.
Yeah, man, talk about gosh. But anyway, Atlanta, they could not run the ball, and thus the game got to a point where Atlanta had to pass the ball in order to stay in it. And once they were able to do that, the defense was kind of able to tee off on them. Boy, did Brian Burns and Derrick Brown, man, what a game those two guys had. Derrick Brown exhibiting a lot of violence out there, did a good job of disrupting the run and just blowing up the middle and pass, in passing situations. And Brian Burns could not be stopped.
I'm very happy Mr. Brown got over his illness in a very short amount of time.
Right. Yeah, seemed to be feeling better on a short week, right?
On a short week, yeah. That illness is
amazing what not playing the Cincinnati Bengals can do for your health. There was really the defense just played about as good as a game as you could possibly ask from any NFL defense. Safety dropped interceptions. And
what about? And I don't mean to cut you off, man, but what about Marquise Haynes just kind of coming out of nowhere?
Man, boy, I'm still not sold on Al Holcomb what he's doing defensively, but if you have a game plan, you stick to it, and you only make the adjustments you need to. And the Carolina Panthers did that. They clearly had a game plan. And they stuck to it.
And look, we would be remiss to not say that, the Carolina Panthers did fire 2 position coaches since the last time we've talked to our audience, man. And maybe that made the difference between Sunday and Thursday. But at the same, because this defense obviously looked a whole lot different than it did Sunday.
To be fair, you can't run that same game plan against Cincinnati. You can't say, okay, we're going to put 8-9 up front to stop Joe Mixon and let Joe Burrow try and beat us. No, you get carved up. You got to play more balanced defense, and it just wasn't going to do it. But against Marcus Mariota, Twitter was going crazy off that. Marcus Mariota threw a pick literally on his rolling on his back. I've been watching football since I was about 3 years old with my dad. I have never seen an NFL quarterback do some silly shit like that. It was Mark Sanchez-ish, man. It was. Fortunately for the Falcons, it didn't matter because he went down because a player touched him, and he tripped and fell and threw. But why would you even do that? You have no idea. Why would you even do that?
So at the beginning of the show, I mentioned how our brother Danny Thompson is just he can't wait for the Marcus Mariota era to be over, and that was the play I had in mind when I was because some of the throws Mariota made, man, I was just scratching my head like, man, what are you looking at? And his counterpart as well. Mr. PJ Walker has a PJ Walker almost threw 3 interceptions.
Let's just go ahead and talk about this. Let's get this out of the way while we're talking about PJ.
Seriously,
Baker Mayfield or PJ Washington?
Walker.
I don't see why you start PJ Washington again because Walker. I'm sorry, yeah, PJ. I'm thinking about the other terrible PJ.
But I'm PJ Washington over Walker at this point. Right?
yeah. But I feel like the clock has struck midnight on the Cinderella run of PJ Walker, and I Steve Wilks and the coaching staff will say, well, he played well against Atlanta last time, which is true.
Right.
But you didn't let him play against Atlanta the same way he played the first time.
Right.
He only threw 16 passes. He was 10 for 16 for 108 yards. No pick.
19.8 QBR rating.
Yeah, no touchdowns. He was like super game manager mode.
Right.
Why do we want a game manager if Baker Mayfield? First of all, we traded for Baker Mayfield, and I get it. Baker Mayfield wasn't exactly lighting things up when he was out there, but there's a reason PJ Washington was the 4th stringer. I just feel like with Baker, you can be more aggressive when you need to be.
Let me tell you, man, Steve Wilks is exhibiting a lot of the Ron Rivera stuff that I didn't like about Ron Rivera. And like I told you in the private chat, man, if you don't trust PJ Walker, why are you starting him? If you have this super conservative game plan to begin with, okay, and that game plan is to protect PJ Walker from turning the ball over, then why are you starting him?
Okay? Right. Yeah.
It's hard for me to really understand that, man. Unless, and the only way I can kind of reason with this, if you're Wilks and you're just a conservative offensive coach to begin with, if your game plan is truly conservative already, then maybe that's the reason you start Walker over Mayfield. Other than that, I don't understand it. I don't.
I don't get it either. I mean, PJ Walker has those flashes, and maybe that's what it is. We see those flashes, but
here's hot take time. I really don't want PJ Walker to be the reason why Wilks doesn't get this head coach job. That's my hot take for the day. I don't want to look back at this season and Walker loses us about 3 or 4 games that we should have won. And Wilks is ultimately.
But you know what? Steve Wilks deserves that. If he's got better quarterbacks sitting on the bench and he's not going to play them because he feels like PJ Walker deserves a chance and we lose and he does not get the head coaching job, that's on you, bro.
Right.
Coaches do not try and outsmart yourselves. They do it all the time.
Hey,
you got a better quarterback. Let
me answer Ryan's question. And Ryan, this is just my opinion, man. You got to understand, I think Baker Mayfield is really just connected to the Matt Rule era. And I don't think we can really put that on Baker Mayfield. You know what I mean? PJ Walker is obviously connected to the Steve Wilks era. And I just think the players, I don't know about play harder. I don't know if I'd put it like that. I mean, we've obviously seen an uptick in preparedness, coming into these games. I just think the quarterbacks are connected to different coaches. I wouldn't really put it on a quarterback as far as the team itself. I can't do that.
I gotta imagine though that when you have someone like Baker Mayfield come onto your team, he comes with a lot of baggage. He just does.
Right. Yeah, he does.
We don't know what that does to the locker room.
Right.
It's the Cam Newton syndrome. Now, to be fair, Baker Mayfield has not accomplished a fraction of what Cam Newton did when Cam Newton was in his prime. But I think that's why a lot of teams are wary of re-signing Cam because, first of all, if he's your backup, he's still the biggest personality in the locker room.
He's still the alpha dog. Yep.
And Baker, I think that's the same thing with Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield got endorsement deals. He came from a big college. I gotta think that teammates might feel a way about that, and I think sometimes Baker Mayfield tries to overcompensate in order to try and appear to be a good teammate, like headbutting the guys when they're coming off field without a helmet on. Okay,
that was not smart.
I mean, it felt forced, right? It felt fake,
right.
Like that's not what being a good teammate is. I think there's got to be some, and maybe that's why Steve Wilkes stays with PJ. Maybe that's it.
Maybe we just answered our question. One more thing about PJ, man. The news just came out that Wilkes is indeed sticking with PJ Walker going into Baltimore this Sunday. I have a horrible feeling about that coming up this Sunday about Walker going up against that defense. So,
I mean, Baker Mayfield comes from that division. I would think you would kind of want him to play against a defense or a team that he has seen before. Maybe it's, people in sports are superstitious. Maybe he feels like PJ is kind of the lucky charm. I mean, PJ Walker does have a winning record as a starter for the Carolina Panthers.
It is. I'm sorry, man. I hate to be a bad fan, but it's fool's gold to me, bro. It is, man.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I like PJ Walker. We've talked about this on the show. We've always liked PJ Walker. There's a reason why he just kind of sticks around with the Carolina Panthers. I think everybody likes PJ Walker.
Right.
But that does not mean that you are the best option for the team.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of positive traits, and like we alluded to, man, especially locker room stuff and leadership stuff when it comes to PJ Walker. But that doesn't always win you football games, man. And I don't know how long we can ride this train, bro. I don't.
Back to the game. Laviska Shenault should take all of Shi Smith's snaps, all of them.
Here's another hot take. Shi Smith may not be on this roster too much longer because if Terrace Marshall is evolving like we've seen in the last 3 weeks and Shenault is becoming a bigger part of this offense, where is there room for Shi Smith, bro?
There are two names that keep popping out at me whenever good things happen on the field. It's either Laviska Shenault or Black Shear. One of those two guys is on the field.
Right. It's like they're game breakers, right? It's like
They'll do something little to build momentum. They'll make a good play or something like that. But whenever something bad happens on offense, Shi Smith's ass is out there.
It's a stupid penalty. It's a route that's ran wrong that results in an interception. It's always something with that guy, man.
Now, Shi Smith had 1 catch for 17 yards. Laviska Shenault had 3 catches for 17 yards. And I know you probably think, well, I mean, it took Laviska 3 catches to get what it took Shi Smith to get 1. But Shenault's catches had a bigger impact. I mean, he scored a touchdown. Now, granted, that was not a pass. They counted it as a run.
Right.
That's the second time this season we've seen Laviska Shenault make that similar play where, he gets a short pass and he cuts through the defense and he scores a touchdown. Dude, just give him the ball. If we can see it, surely the coaches see it, right?
Yeah, it's funny, man, because I made a big stink about us preparing for Cordell Patterson coming back this game, and it looks like we may have our own version of Cordell Patterson, man. I mean, seriously, dude.
Dante Foreman. Okay, so we're all, everyone was sad to see Christian McCaffrey leave.
Yeah.
Honestly, does anybody care anymore?
I care a whole lot less now, bro.
That trade worked out for everyone.
Yeah.
We go to a team that could possibly win the damn Super Bowl. I don't think they will, but clearly he's thriving over there. The guy he starts throwing touchdowns and shit. One doing that here. Because he goes to a team that knows how to use him, right? And then in return, Dante Foreman now has the opportunity to shine, and boy,
he's shining, man. He's shining.
Yeah. Now the problem is this. Okay, Jay Anderson says we need to keep Foreman and get other running backs next year and do running back by committee. I completely 100% agree. But Foreman's going to cost. And we know that nobody likes paying running backs a lot of money.
Right.
That was one of the big things with Christian McCaffrey. We paid him all this money. I mean, a lot of teams are going to be looking at Jonte Freeman or Foreman and seeing what he did for us, and he's going to get some offers this season. Should the Panthers outpay everyone? Because they still have Chuba Hubbard on a contract.
I'm going to cower out of this question and say this is why I'm glad I'm not a GM. I don't want to make that. I wouldn't want to make that decision. I really wouldn't, man. My first instinct is to tell you, go ahead and pay that man. But here's the thing: we know we still got some holes to fill on this roster. You know, we know there's some positions that still need upgrading. We're still kind of in flux as far as kind of looking for an identity on offense. We still have the big hole at quarterback. We don't know what that's going to look like next year. So with that being said, man, if I had to predict, I think they probably don't pay him. And I think they probably are going to look at the big picture and say, all right, we definitely need to fill a hole at quarterback. We definitely need to fill other positions. And like you said, running backs just are not going to get paid. And I don't think the Panthers are going to be in position to pay for him what he ultimately is going to deserve, honestly.
Yeah, in the NFL, I like to see more than one good season before you get somebody a deal.
Mm-hmm.
If I just think about Peyton, is it Peyton Hillis?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that guy was a monster. Made the cover of Madden, everything. Got paid, and that was it. So I'm not saying that would happen with Foreman, but that's the nature of the NFL. You know, Foreman's a guy that's been bounced around from team to team. He finally gets a good chance here. He does well. Does that mean that you pay him and build around and keep him on as part of your future? Maybe, maybe not. You definitely let him test the market and you see what the market looks like and make a decision there. All right, so let's go to game MVPs.
Game MVP for me, man, is Foreman. Foreman saved PJ Walker. Yeah. he saved this team offensively, man. So it's a pretty easy choice for me.
Yeah.
We're just doing offense, right? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, you can get defensive MVP as well. That's a harder one, though.
Yeah, defensive MVP is a harder one, man. But I'm going to go with Derek Brown. I think he made the most impact. And it's hard because Marquise Hayes had two really big sacks toward the end of this game, man. Frankie Louvu was all over the place Thursday. Other than dropping obvious interceptions, Xavier Woods played well, man. But I think Brown had the biggest impact on the game. So I'll go Brown for defensive MVP.
Yeah, you could pick Brown, Louvu, Brian Burns. I think maybe and even Marquise Haynes Sr. I'm gonna go with Brian Burns mainly because I felt like there's no leader on this defense, and I feel like he's slowly becoming that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think Thursday was a game where he did that. He was like, all right, we're gonna get the quarterback. I'm the best, one of the best in the league against the quarterback, and he was always in Mariota's face, even if he didn't get the sack. He did have a sack, in which he did the Bully Maguire dance from Spider-Man 3.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pick anyone. Louvu had it wasn't even a quiet game. It was like a huge game, but it's weird because you felt like Derek Brown and Brian Burns were making like the bigger impact.
Right.
That just goes to show how good the defense played. 5 sacks, 33 yards loss on those sacks. They just played well, and it was just so refreshing to see Carolina get after the quarterback again. Something that they've really never been bad at ever.
Right.
And it was good to see him do that as well. Also, I'm gonna give a shout to the offensive line. They have played very well.
They have.
They even played. They didn't play that poorly last week. Honestly, you cannot put that on them. Last week, what happened? And even Foreman in his post game on the field the first thing he said was my offensive line.
Yeah, no doubt.
And I think, we saw a lot of penalties from Okongwu and Christensen. Those guys are still learning, but I feel like they're gelling more as a unit, which is the most important thing for offensive line, more than the defensive line. There has to be that cohesiveness.
Yeah.
And we know that as the season goes on, offensive lines typically build that cohesiveness, and I think we're seeing it with the Carolina Panthers. And it makes me wonder, are our offensive line troubles over?
Over? Now, over might be a little strong. I want to see us string together at least 2 good seasons. I think the offensive line has had a really good season this year. But let me go into season 2 before I say
yeah.
The struggles have been with us so long. I don't want to be sold just yet, man. But, however, I'm going to say this. Here's another hot take. They don't normally give offensive rookie MVPs to offensive linemen. Ekonwu should be in the running. He's had a hell of a rookie season. He's had a really good rookie season, man.
Absolutely. Good pick. I like the only problem you see with him is like procedural stuff. Like,
yeah, right.
He's got to get used to being in the NFL, but I feel like on the field, he's played well. I'd also like to see, and I wish someone would ask Steve Wilkes this question, someone with press credentials that we'll never get. But why haven't you moved Brady Christensen back to a tackle spot? Now I know the answer to that. It's the middle of the season.
Yeah, right.
But I'm wondering if next season, whoever the coach is going to consider moving Christensen back to his natural position. We've seen a lot in the NFL where guys, particularly linemen, offensive and defensive linemen, will move to an unnatural position and be okay, but then they go back to their whatever they were playing in college, and then they're dominant again. I mean, look at Luke Kuechly. A lot of people forget when he came in the league, he played outside linebacker because we had John Beeson, and he played very well for an outside linebacker. But when Beeson got hurt and he moved back to the middle, now he's really linebacker in the league, maybe probably top 5, 10 in history. So I'm wondering if we're going to see that from Christensen. I wonder if that's like one of the key pieces that we need to move around.
So, I obviously don't know the answer to that question, but I'm thinking in the long-term plans after Taylor Moton, because you got to understand Taylor Moton has that right side entrenched right now, and I'm thinking maybe in the long term they're probably grooming him to take that over once Taylor Moton leaves the team, and that's probably it. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I feel you on that. All right, next week, Carolina Panthers continue driving the tank as they travel up to Baltimore, baby.
Oh boy.
Face Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, who ESPN gives right now an 88% chance of winning. They are 6-3. They are atop their division, and they're a really good team, which the Carolina Panthers are not. Your predictions?
I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to expose PJ Walker. I really, really do. I think we're going to see a first half very similar to the one we saw with the. I don't think the defense will play that bad, but offensively, I think we're going to. I think it may get ugly, man, because I'm just being conservative won't work against that defense. I mean, we're just not going to move the ball. You know what I mean? With that being said, man, I think it's going to be hard to score. I'm going Baltimore, and I think the defense is going to show up, man. So I'm going to go probably 24-7 Ravens, man.
I'm going to go 24-14 Ravens. What's going to be most interesting is our rushing game against the Ravens rushing defense.
Yeah, right.
The Ravens don't have like a spectacular defense. In fact, the Carolina Panthers have a better defense, pass defense, and in total yards allowed, they're about the same. But in rushing yards allowed, the Ravens are one of the best in the league. They allow less than 100 yards a game. And with the emergence of Deontay Foreman, I'm wondering how that's going to pan out. Is he going to be able to run against a front that doesn't give up that many yards? If he's able to run well, I think the Panthers have a real chance in this if they don't like start playing super conservative with PJ Walker. I just feel like this is a game you need Baker Mayfield for. Maybe PJ approve us wrong again, but I'm going to say if I'm Steve Wilkes, PJ Walker's leash is about this long.
Right.
Like, we're not going to get down 35-0 again before you games.
Right. And then decide to play once the game is decided. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I'll be an interesting game. Actually, though, I'll tell you what, tanking. Right now, the Carolina Panthers. If the draft were tomorrow, we'd pick second. I think Texans would pick first, and the Saints would pick right after us. Number 2 pick, anywhere in the top 3, maybe even top 5. The Panthers are good. We beat Atlanta. I'm good with whatever happens the rest of the season. We got rid of Matt Rule. We got rid of Phil Snow.
We gave away Robbie Anderson for a 4-piece box.
Right. We've seen the emergence of Dante Foreman. I'm good with whatever happens the rest of the season. I just want to see effort. Okay.
Yeah, no doubt. I want to see.
Beat by Baltimore because they're a better team. Right. You get beat by Baltimore because they're a better team, then so be it. Just show effort both on the field and in the coaching staff, and I'll be happy when we get that top 5 pick and end up with who. I think, man, if Drake May is getting super underrated because he plays for North Carolina, but statistically, the guy looks really good.
Look, man, if Drake May isn't the number 1 pick, because he's a freshman, so we're not in the run for him this year. But whenever he comes out, if he's not the number 1 pick, I don't know who's going to be. That guy is. And
here's what I'm afraid of. A lot of people are attaching the Panthers to CJ Stroud.
And I'm one of those guys because I just don't think we're going to get – because I think Bryce Young is going to go number 1 overall, and I don't think we're going to get number one overall pick. CJ Stroud is the next guy in line. I think so I'm one of those guys who's doing the same thing, honestly.
But, if we pick Stroud and then, Drake May comes out next season, boy, wouldn't you feel like –
Are you just expecting us to suck next season?
Yeah. CJ Stroud is not going to save this franchise. Not going to happen. Okay, yeah. Drake May isn't even available to 2025. Okay. All right, so we're good.
Scratch that.
We're good. All right. So, from one tank to the next tank. By the way, anyone who is talking about the Hornets tanking for Victor, everyone wants to tank for Victor.
Let's talk about this. Please, let's talk about this.
I'm going to write an article and post it on the construction because I've been doing some research. But since the lottery system, now I know the lottery system has changed, and I addressed that in the article that I'm writing. But since the lottery system in 1985, you know how many times the team with the worst record has gotten the number 1 pick?
Twice.
More than that.
5 times.
We're talking 30, almost 35 years.
Right.
6 times.
6 times. 6 out of 35.
6 out of 35. Now, so I know that from an odds perspective, if you have the worst record, from a pure statistical perspective, you have the highest chance of getting the number 1 pick. However, from a historical perspective, that is not true. It is simply not true. And in fact, if you pick in the top 3, it is almost a guarantee that one of those picks will be a bust. Never ever have the top 3 picks all gone on to be at least all-star level. It has never ever happened. So
and I'm also wondering, out of those 35 picks, how many of those teams ultimately win championships with the guys they pick?
I'm not saying that. If you got a chance to draft Victor, obviously,
of course, hell yeah.
But here's the problem: if you don't get him, then what? because this is not a heavy draft. It is not.
It's Victor, there's Scoop, and there's everybody else. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, exactly. So now your team is bad. You didn't get, a generational talent.
And then Hornets fans are complaining because you sent another draft pick to G League.
Right.
Oh my God, why are we sending all of our rookies?
Man, we picked number 6, man. He should be playing. Well, he wasn't that good because the draft wasn't that good. I think that it is way too early to talk about.
Thank you.
That. If we get to a point, I feel like, first of all, let me say this, and I do mention this article. NBA needs to do it with the draft. They never will because the draft is a spectacle. But it punishes good teams and it rewards bad teams. And it makes it so where the back half of the season really doesn't count for a good chunk of teams.
There's a lot of bad basketball in the second half of the season.
If you've been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, then there's no reason to win another game.
Yeah, it's a lot of ankle injuries come out the blue in the second half.
Yeah, a lot of illnesses.
Yeah, a lot of illnesses.
Rest days.
Lot of personal reasons for missing games. Yeah.
So if the Hornets get mathematically eliminated after like game 65 or whatever, okay, then by all means, you just everybody, right? Send LaMelo to the G League, whatever. Okay. But right now, I know 3-10, 3-11 looks terrible. Okay, but it's still too early to talk about.
Let me talk because you stole most of my points, man. But thank you for bringing this up, man. This is something I really wanted to talk about. The first point I want to make, and I'm probably going to steal a couple of your points, but the first one I want to make, number one, fans, Hornets fans, these players don't give a damn about your tank aspirations. They're not going to go out there and purposely lose games. Stop it. Stop. Number two, man, me personally, I'm just talking for Jamal, for Angry Black fan Jamal. I am not wired to watch my team every night and say to myself, man, if they lose, man, okay, I'm fine. I'm just not wired. I'm just not. I'm sorry. Victor Wembanyama, however you pronounce his damn name. Look, man, generational talent. If, and I say if we are in position to ultimately get that guy, I am all for it, man. Look, I get that. He is the real deal. There's no argument there. But during the course of a 82-game season, I'm not going to sit here and just root for the Hornets to just lose games, dude. And they're not going to do it on purpose anyway. And the biggest fact is, it is November. It is November 13th. Yeah. Stop, y'all. Listen. I don't know why our fans act like the injuries to LaMelo, Gordon, Miles Bridges' case, Cody Martin. I don't know why our fans act like that just doesn't matter. Like that just doesn't matter to a team like this. Ultimately, about 68% of your scoring has been out at one point in time. Dennis Smith Jr. now, Ted Rozier at some point. That matters, okay? That 3-11 record, do I really feel like that's the team we are? I don't. And maybe I'm being overly optimistic. Maybe I'm being fanboy. But I just don't look at that record and say, that's the Hornets team that I think we are. I just don't. Because we haven't seen a full team with full cohesion yet. And that's what I'm still waiting on. If that happens and we still suck, hey, tank commander, okay? But I'm going to hold out, man.
Yeah, I feel like any real analysis about the Hornets right now is kind of moot because we have not seen. So I feel like unless you have a sample size in which Terry Rozier, LaMelo Ball, Mason Plumlee, Gordon Hayward, and PG Washington all start.
Right. With Dennis Smith Jr. coming off the bench.
With Kelly Oubre and Nick Richards, 8-man rotation, and then your ninth guy, whoever, Jalen McDaniels. Without that team playing together, or at least most of that team, right. I don't think you can really say one way or the other. Now, a lot of people feel like, well, we're never going to see that rotation, which might be true. You know, it just
maybe not
that rotation. And a lot of people feel like 3-11 is a lost cause. It is not. There have been teams. It's crazy to say this. There have been teams with worse starts than that to make the playoffs. You just never know. And
Kaiser, let me offer this nugget to you. I don't know what the losing streak was last season, but it was close to 10 last season. We at least got in the play-in game with an 8-9 game losing.
We had a winning record.
It had a winning record. For real fans, it's this is something. Steve Clifford teams, I call it the annual 10-game losing streak. It happens every year. Now, obviously, we don't make the playoffs every year. That's obvious. But the point I'm trying to make, even with those seasons that we've had double-digit losing streaks, there have been a couple of seasons in there where we still went to the playoffs. The year, I believe the Miami Heat year, the year that we lost in Game 7, there was a 10-game losing streak within that season, and we still went to the playoffs. Yeah, y'all, it is November.
Way too early. I'll say this: 25 games in, I think you at that point, or 20 games, a quarter of a season, then you know how good your team is. Right? You know what your team is. And then you base that off of injuries. Let's look at the week that was the Hornets, in which they lost 4 games. They lost to the Wizards, the Wizards, the Trailblazers, the Heat, and then they play the Magic tomorrow. I picked them to go 2-2. I think you did as well.
No, I said 1-3, but I was thinking
yeah. They had winning chances in all of those games.
All those games, yep.
It's hard to know where they went wrong in.
I can tell you. Listen, Kaiser, if we wanted to make this a super short Hornet segment, we can sum it up in one sentence: lack of firepower. That's pretty much it. Now that's the short of it. Now that doesn't indicate, that doesn't describe every single game, but ultimately that's what it comes down to. Like, I'm looking at the Washington game, and think about it this way: Washington has Porzingis, who is a 20-point a game scorer, right? He can at least do that for you. With the injuries that we have, the Wizards are a deeper team than we are. Now, other than Porzingis, they don't have a lot of they have Kyle Kuzma, you know what I mean? A good player, maybe not an all-star caliber player, but they have a bunch of Kyle Kuzmas. They have a bunch of B minuses. Okay? Our B minus guys are our lead guys right now. And True. How long is that sustainable? Like, I love me some Terry Rozier. But you cannot expect Terry Rozier to carry you to victories all the time. You just can't. And it comes down to lack of firepower. I love me some Dennis Smith Jr., but Dennis Smith Jr. and Terry Rozier are just not going to lead you to victories against more talented teams. And that was kind of the case in the Wizards game. That's pretty much it.
Especially coming off injuries, because I think of, like you said, they've got Porzingis, Kyle Kuzma, Bradley Beal didn't play, but that's already 2 players that arguably are better than any players that we have on our team, not named Lamelo Ball, who did not play. Also, I know this was the previous week, but I think about that Brooklyn Nets game, and a lot of Hornets fans were mad at that game, but I'm like, guys, add Kevin Durant. We don't have Kevin Durant.
We don't have anything close to a Kevin Durant.
Right. So unless you think the Hornets should just go get a Kevin Durant, then
a lot of Hornets fans think that Michael Jordan should just call them and just say, "Hey, man, I'm Michael Jordan. Come play for me." And it's just that easy.
Yeah, people just drop whatever they're doing and just go to Charlotte. Also, let's say I went to the NBA. Let's say it was like one of those stupid ass sports movies where we're gonna give the average Joe
Air Bud, something like that.
Yeah, like I'm 43, I'm overweight. We're gonna let
you're a banker and
exactly. We're gonna let you play in the NBA, right? Because we need to build a roster or some shit, right? and I'm terrible. And they say, you know what? If you're terrible this next game, I'm going to let you go. But that next game is against the Charlotte Hornets. I'm in the league, baby.
And you know what? You know what? And your name in the movie is Jordan Goodwin. You know why?
Yeah.
Because who the hell is Jordan Goodwin?
Who the hell? Max Strus did not give a damn last night. He didn't give a damn. He's like, first of all, his eyes lit up when Lamelo Ball got on him. We'll talk about that in a minute. But he didn't care. He was like, you know what? I'm just gonna drop 31 on these mugs. I don't care. I'm just gonna do it. Who the hell is Max Strus?
Kaza, let me get this point out the way. Even with injuries, even with guys out, I'm never not going to be frustrated at a random guy going off against the Hornets.
Random guy.
I have Kaza. You know how much I'm into sports. I think I follow basketball a little closely than the average dude does. I have never heard of Jordan Goodwin before in my life, and this guy goes 7 for 7 for 17 points, and that really was the big difference in the Wizards game. You letting random bench guys go off. You know, you letting Daniel Gafford and Jordan Goodwin and Al Gill and these no names ultimately get points against you, man. And I just don't get it, bro.
Hey, who is Anthony Simmons?
Now he's pretty good. Anthony Simons is good. He's not but he's good though. He's good.
Yeah, but I mean, like, is he a guy that you really expect to be like that difference maker? Because he was. Damian Lillard's going to get his. So all you got to do is hold guys like Simons or Shaden Sharp. Who the hell is Shaden Sharp?
Well, he's the rookie I wouldn't mind having, actually. Shaden Sharp he's a player, bro. He's a player.
I just feel like when guys like that are, thank God Justice Winslow didn't have a good game against us because.
Oh my God! Could you imagine? Oh my goodness! But let me say this: Shaden Sharp, he's going to be a player. He was a lottery pick. That's cool. I'm cool with that. Yeah. I'm cool with that. Anthony Simons, not a heralded name, but he is going to be a player too. That's I'm cool with that, Kaza. Who the hell is Drew Eubanks? Forget those other two. Drew Eubanks looked like David Robinson against us, man. Like
Gabe Vincent was I'm just gonna shoot it from like 40 feet. I don't care.
So speaking of all of this, Kaza, let me ask you this question. One thing that we were excited about as far as Steve Clifford taking over for this team was we all thought that we were going to see an improved defensive effort. And for the most part, we have. I'm going to say that. For the most part, it looks a little better. But it's still some room for improvement. So, to me, it looks like roster limitations as far as I'm concerned, because this is a very interesting quote, and I'm paraphrasing from Steve Clifford. I'm totally paraphrasing. He said something to the effect of, defense is pretty much effort. You can't scheme effort. The guys got to want to play defense. And there's a lot of our young guys who are missing coverages, who are getting beat on back cuts, James Bouknight, who are getting attacked on the defensive end. You seeing the same thing I'm seeing?
Yeah. Also, what I'm saying is that sometimes there is regression to habits. If you are used to doing things a certain way, and then someone else comes in and says, no, I'm going to show you how to do it this way because this way will be more successful.
Right.
And that way, even if it bears out immediate results, when things start getting dicey, humans, we just naturally regress to our habits. We see it in other sports all the time. How many times, those of you guys that watch boxing and MMA, you see a guy, he works on a new thing in his training camp for the fight. All right, I got my left hook. My left hook is going to be, and then left hook's working. Then he starts getting countered with the right hand with the left hook. And then so what does he do? He completely forgets about how effective that left hook was in the first place.
He abandons the game plan.
He abandons it, and he goes back to throwing overhand rights, and he gets knocked out. That's what's happening to the Charlotte Hornets. Remember the beginning of the season, how well Kelly Oubre was playing? Because He wasn't shooting as many 3-pointers.
Right.
They even flashed a stat that Kelly Oubre had more 2-point attempts than 3-point attempts, and he was playing well. He was playing good defense. And then what happened? Hornets start losing, and Kelly Oubre goes crazy. Starts jacking up 3 after 3 after 3. He's not even shooting league average on threes right now because he forgot what was working for him at the beginning of the season. Just because they started losing games, he's out of his mind now. And that has become infectious. It's spread to everyone. I'm tired. I know the Hornets last season were one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the league. Okay, but that doesn't just mean that you can expect every 3-pointer to go in.
Right.
To create good shots, you have to create good offense to get opportunities to shoot and hit threes. And the Hornets are not doing that. They're not playing defense, and they're making bad decisions on offense.
So perfect segue to what we ultimately have to talk about. The return of Lamelo Ball last night against the Miami Heat for the second game of a back-to-back series with the Heat. What were your impressions with Lamelo Ball last night, man?
I'm going to cut him a little bit of slack because first game of the season, and he was coming off of a fairly significant injury, kept him out 15 games or 13 games. So offensively, I will say this. The difference when LaMelo Ball is on the court is beyond 9 day. Yep. The pace, the way the players move, the shots they take, he gives the defense such fit. You can tell they hate guarding LaMelo Ball because he's such a playmaker.
Right.
And then he throws all that in the garbage by doing 2 things that should be out of your damn system in year 3. One,
I know what you're about to say.
Yep. Well, actually, the first thing I was about to say was stop shooting random ass 3-pointers that we don't need, bro. Stop that.
Not just random 3-pointers, but from the logo.
I get it. Right. It's entertaining. The fans want to see that. But you went 1 for 9 for 3 last night. Stop that. Take the better shot. Drive to the basket. Nobody could check LaMelo. Kyle Lowry could not check LaMelo Ball. Okay? That was not happening. He was getting free drives to the basket, behind the back dimes to cats. Keep doing that. The time to shoot threes will come. The second thing you got to stop doing is fouling. Why are you almost fouling out every game, bro? And I had hoped that LaMelo Ball would end up a better defender in year 3. I'm not even saying he's got to be elite, just better.
Let me interrupt you there, man, because that goes back to what I said. Steve Clifford actually made it a big point to tell his team, you got to play better defense without fouling. You're putting teams on the foul line way too often. And then you got LaMelo Ball coming back game 1, being the poster child for
I hate when I hear coaches say that because isn't that obvious? Play defense without fouling. I mean, why can't players do that? And in LaMelo Ball's case, that's not even always the case. He gets frustrated when he makes a bad defensive play. Yeah. And he doesn't know what to do, so he fouls out of frustration. We saw this today in which Caleb Martin fouled LaMelo Ball. Yeah. But the refs didn't call it. He got a steal. He comes back the other way. He missed the shot, actually, but on the rebound and whatever, LaMelo Ball just fouls Caleb Martin out of frustration. Okay? Yeah. And it ended up being like his 3rd foul. I think he had to sit after that foul. And it's like sometimes you just got to sometimes players get the better of you. And you just got to let it go, bro. Okay, you're an offensive dynamo. Get it back on the other end. Don't do these – or, I've seen guys drive past LaMelo because anybody apparently can drive past LaMelo. And then he gets frustrated and he gets a dumb reach. Like, what are you reaching? You're not going to get a steal, but he reaches and gets the foul. Stop doing that. If he would stop just doing that, I think that him being a poor defender would not have as much of an impact as it does.
So let me say this, man, and I want to make this point to try to kind of tell people you're not really piling on LaMelo, but here's something else I noticed. let's look at last night in particular. I'm not. I'll. This is the perfect example to kind of give people. Jalen McDaniels was getting beat off a lot of back cuts because the Heat, man, they move that ball. You got to keep your head on a swivel when you play in the Heat, man. They are constantly moving the ball. They're constantly moving without the ball. Duncan Robinson is constantly moving and cutting, and Jalen McDaniels had the responsibility of checking him, and he got lost a lot. He got lost in those picks and those back cuts, and there were some easy buckets that the Heat scored because McDaniels couldn't keep up with some of those cutters. Kelly Oubre was kind of guilty of that too. James Bouknight, he's another young guy who's still learning how to play NBA defense. And then on top of that, Bouknight is just not a good on-ball defender as it is anyway. You see how Damian Lillard's eyes lit up whenever Bouknight got switched on him and he scored like 10 straight points in a minute. You know what I mean? So I'm saying all this to say there has to be a level of patience, not only that Clifford has to have, but fans have to have as well, when it comes to young NBA players still learning how to play defense on the NBA level. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, man, until we get our full lineup back, we're going to see a lot of that, man. And that's
I don't think LaMelo Ball will ever be like a good defender, and that's okay. There are a lot of elite players that are not good. I mean, look at Steph Curry. Although Steph Curry's defense is improved, and it's kind of underrated, but he plays good defense within the system of his team. He led the league steals twice. I think LaMelo has the potential to do that. He does have a nose for the ball. He's got long arms. He can disrupt passing lanes. There are good things LaMelo Ball does good defensively. But as far as him just being like a good defender, that's not going to happen. So the team needs to accept that, and then you have to try and mitigate that. Some people, a lot of Hornets fans, believe that having a more defensive-minded center rotation would resolve that, because when teams drive past our guards, then they got to meet the center at the rim. Although in the NBA, that doesn't really seem to deter people like it did in the 90s.
And I try to tell people all the time, man, that's putting a Band-Aid on a big bruise, man. Like it's just a small fix for that, man.
Really, your wings got to be able to guard. You got to have defensive wings, and one of ours is injured. Cody Martin, quad soreness turned to knee surgery. I don't know how that happened, but he's out for another 6 weeks. Jalen McDaniels plays okay defense. He gets lost on some back cuts sometimes, but it's just gonna be one of those things where defense just has to be a total team effort. We know the Hornets. They just got to do it. By the way, also, man, I know Jimmy Butler is tough to guard, but PJ Washington, come on, bro.
PJ Washington, man. We don't have a lot of time left, man. But let me talk about PJ Washington.
No, we can take all the time for PJ Washington, because
I'm growing very, very, very tired of PJ Washington, man. He is almost turning into trade bait for me, man. And the reason why, there's a couple of reasons why I'm growing a little tired of PJ Washington, man. Number one, because with all these guys being out, PJ Washington is the guy that you expect to step up. He's the guy with the most talent. You know what I mean? He's a little more tenured than the rest of the roster. It's like, all right, dude, you got all these guys out. You need to be more productive. You need to step up. You're the guy. He's the biggest X factor on the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to keep saying it until people realize that. But you're growing tired of him because of his inconsistency on both ends, man. It's
I find that when he has to guard an elite player, he is worthless on the offensive end, and I understand that's hard to do. It's really hard to chase Jimmy Butler around and then be expected to go back down court and play well. I understand that, but that's what being a top NBA player is all about. You have to be able to do those things, or pick and choose. Hey, I know Jimmy Butler's going to beat me, but I'm going to go down here and I'm going to score 20 points. I mean, PJ's got to figure that out, because he's such a key piece. If he doesn't play well, the Hornets don't play well, and you end up with third quarters like last night. That might be the worst third quarter in Hornets history, and our starters were all on the floor. So I mean, you look at the box scores, the plus minus, you're like, my God, I don't.
The most frustrating part, Kaza, is we played them evenly all game, except the third quarter.
Yeah, I thought actually it looked like we had righted the wrongs from the overtime loss, and we were going to come back. We were actually going to win that game. But boy, the Heat had other plans. Yeah. Okay, so upcoming schedule: they play Orlando in Orlando Monday, Indiana at home on Wednesday.
My birthday, by the way.
What's that?
My birthday, by the way, y'all.
Oh yeah, we're gonna have to party. And then Friday they play Cleveland in Cleveland. That's 3 games before the next time that you guys see us. Here's the thing: that's not a tough schedule. You would expect that they're going to lose to Cleveland,
right?
And you would expect that they would beat Orlando and be about even with Indiana. But we lost to Orlando at home.
Big time.
Earlier this season, didn't just lose, we got blown out.
Yep.
And Indiana that's a coin flip game as far as I'm concerned. And I certainly don't expect them to beat Cleveland, who is just a better team.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get revenge against Orlando. I think the Hornets were embarrassed by that loss. I just think that they're not going to come out and they're not going to get bullied by Orlando's size like they were last game. Indiana, oh boy, I'm going to say the Hornets go 1-2.
I am going to be optimistic only because it's my birthday week, and I'm going to go 2-1. I'll try to rationalize it though. I will try to rationalize it this way. For the same reasons you just said against Orlando. Now, I will say this against Orlando. Lamelo Ball being back against Orlando is a big deal. I really do. I think Orlando stifled us defensively, and we didn't have a lot of dynamic scoring. And I think Lamelo fixes that. So if Dennis Smith Jr. comes back at some point this week, let's just, for argument's sake, say he comes back against Orlando. I think we really have a good shot of going 2-1. So against Indiana, total coin flip game. I'm completely with you on that. But just for, I don't know, the purposes of it being my birthday, I don't want us to lose on my birthday, and I'm going to be in the house. So I'm going to say we win that game. And like you said, Cleveland is just a better team, man. They got talent all over that floor. Donovan Mitchell is a perennial Hornets killer as it is. So I pick us to drop that one, man. So I'm going to be optimistic and say 2-1. It wouldn't surprise me if we go 1-2 or 0-3. It just wouldn't surprise me at all.
I'm really interested the Indiana game to see Tyrese Halliburton versus LaMelo Ball, because the last time they played each other, Tyrese Halliburton made LaMelo Ball look like the rookie. And Halliburton averaging 20 and 10 this season.
Yeah,
he's having a great year. So,
and I will say that I'll say this about the Pacers game. Ever since the play-in game, we've been kicking their ass since they kicked our ass, and they may be kind of tired of losing to us, man. So that may be a tough one.
You need LaMelo Ball to get up to speed as quickly as possible.
No doubt.
This has to be a breakout year for him, and it needs to happen sooner than later. It's unfortunate, but that's what it is.
Let me say one more thing about the Hornets. Gordon Hayward, what the hell is up? When did his shoulder?
Not even your shooting shoulder. Get out, man.
When did his shoulder contusion turn into a 3-4 game injury, man? Come on, man.
Get your ass on the court. I need somebody from the coaching staff to tell me what the hell going on with this guy's non-shooting shoulder. His shoulder.
Look, man, I have defended Gordon Hayward a lot. You know what I mean? And this one, I'm just like, all right, bro.
I've been mad the last few games because it's like, okay, I get it. That game, and maybe even the next game. All right, but that was more like 3-4 games now. Like,
not a shoulder sprain, not a shoulder separation, not surgery, a contusion. Really, dude?
Yeah.
Get your ass up, man.
Yeah, get your ass on the court. Bring your barber too.
Right.
Right. Yeah. Oh boy. Okay. All right. I want to answer. We didn't get a chance to answer Swagner's question. I hope he's still on. He asked if Teo Maladon hasn't been as aggressive on offense as he was earlier in the season.
I agree, man.
I agree, but I think that's because look who he's playing with. in his rotation. Nick Richards, who seems to be kind of like the de facto first option coming off the bench, because Nick Richards is hit or miss, and there's a lot of debate to be had about whether or not he should be starting Mark Williams, but he's good around the basket. I think players feel comfortable, giving Nick Richards the ball and letting him score. So you got guys like Jaden McDaniels, Kelly Oubre is back on the bench. So I think he's just deferring to people who are more trusted options.
Yeah, no doubt.
I do wish he was more aggressive. I like when he's out there, good things happen. And as someone said in the comments of the game chat yesterday, he's the best French player we've ever had.
Yeah, quite simply, man. It's just not as many shots for him as there was previously, man. So, yeah.
All right. Shout outs.
Man, rest in peace, Fred Hickman, man. Any old school basketball fan, you know who Fred Hickman is, man. He started off with the Turner Network, man. Had a show called Inside the NBA back in the early 90s, man. So I watched a lot of Fred Hickman as a child. Seen him on CNN. He did pass away earlier this week, man. So rest in peace, Fred Hickman, man. And I think that's probably all I got as far as shout outs.
I'm gonna do
hey, by the way, real quick, guys, Mark Williams hit a damn half-court buzzer beater.
Bring that man to Charlotte. Give him JT Thor's minutes. We ain't even get a chance to talk about that. I'm sick of JT Thor too. Give Kai Jones, JT Thor. Hey
man. The JT Thor experiment needs to end really soon.
Give Ryan JT Thor's minutes at this point. I'm
done with JT Thor, man. Yeah.
Okay, so my shout. I'm going to do a rest in peace to Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy was a voice actor for a lot of animated shows, but he was known as the voice of Batman. With Batman the animated series back in the 90s, and he has voiced Batman in every non-movie role for the last 30 plus years, even all of the Batman Arkham games, everything. I mean, he was Batman. He died of cancer a few days ago at age 66. So for 90 kids like me, his voice resonates. When I think Batman, I think Kevin Conroy's voice. So
also real quick, man, rest in peace, Tame One, old school 90s hip hop heads like me.
Artifacts, man.
Yeah, we know who Tame One is,
it's
man.
Funny because last week we were just on this show, weren't we? Just talking about dead rappers.
Yep.
And the next day, Tame One passes. Tame One and Hurricane G. I'm so sorry. Yeah. It's wild there. Y'all be safe. Speaking of wild, there was another high school football game shooting in Orlando, Florida, and it's just why, man? You can't go. You can't go nowhere. Stay at home. Stay at home and watch sports.
Watch the Charlotte teams lose like us, man, and stick it out.
Don't go to those games because there might be some violence. Because
just now,
watching these two teams drive your ass crazy. So, hey, but y'all have a good, safe week, and we'll see y'all again next week. Hopefully, with some Hornets wins and Panthers losses. Tank
Commander Cotton. Yes.